I never had a Marine that quit on me.
Our guest this week on Veterans Chronicles is R.V. Burgin. He is a veteran of World War II and a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. And sir, it's an honor to have you with us today.
Yep.
Where were you born and raised?
It's Judd, Texas,
And where's that in Texas?
Central Texas.
Fairly rural?
Yeah,
When did you join the service?
November the 13th, 1942.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
Yeah, I enlisted.
Okay. And why did you pick the Marine Corps?
It's the best Uncle Sam had.
And where did you go to train?
San Diego.
What was that training like?
It was, I knew that they couldn't dish out anything that I can take. It was fast and furious. That San Diego sand, they just run us. You take a step and slide back half a step.
So they broke you down, but they made you better.
That's what they do. They always bring recruits in at night. They do that on purpose. Disorientated, they are in charge.
Did you ever think you wouldn't make it?
No.
So when did you find out you were going to be trained on mortars?
Out of boot camp. When I got out of boot camp, I went to Camp Elliott, and I was put in 60 mortars.
Was that a hard thing to learn?
No.
What did you have to learn?
How to set the motor up. The motor comes in three. Four. Got the sights, the base plate, the tube, and the bipod. And if you shooting along 1,000 yards or 500 yards, you set the sights on the motor to that distance, and then you make a adjustment with the second round. I was on Okinawa one time, and I knew about where this guy machine gun was, but every time somebody go across the valley, Okinawa, one ridge, one valley, one ridge, one valley, from north to south, and I knew where he was, approximately where he was, and the only way I could know for sure where he was at was let him shoot at me. And I stepped out in his range of fire, and he put 3 holes in my dungarees in my left leg, between my knee and ankle, and 2 bullet holes in my dungarees in my right leg. But he didn't have me.
That's amazing. And you
Yeah,
figured out where he was.
Yeah, I could see the fire coming out of the machine gun. I forward run around and made an adjustment, and I think that was only direct hit that I made all the time on Peleliu and Okinawa. Only direct hit I ever done. And when I fired the first round, I made an adjustment, and the next round got a direct hit. The machine gun went that way, and the Jap went that way.
Wow. And we'll talk about those battles a little bit more in our conversation later. How fast could you set up a mortar?
I could set a mortar up in seconds.
Wow. And so then you were...
Less than a minute.
Impressive, very impressive. So you were joined to the 5th Marines, correct?
Yes.
In what unit?
K-35.
What were your thoughts on that unit?
It was the most decorated. The 5th Regiment is the most decorated regiment in the Marine Corps.
So you fought with good men.
Yeah.
Where were you first deployed?
To Melbourne, Australia. We're there for 6 months, training with the Guadalcanal men, the Marines that just come off of Guadalcanal, and I would sit around and listen to their stories and ask questions. I wanted to know all I could know about what they did, the Marines did, what the Japs did. And so I wouldn't be walking into just blind, not knowing what we did, what the Japs did. And they were good teachers.
Well, they had certainly seen the worst of it.
Yeah.
At Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
What were the most important lessons?
This one,
Yeah. After Melbourne, where did you go?
we went to Milne Bay, New Guinea, stayed there for 3 months, and then hit New Britain. And I fought in New Britain December the 26th until May the 4th. I left the island May the 4th.
Of 44?
43.
43, okay. And what was your experience in that first battle?
The first night, the land crabs was crawling around in the dry leaves and making a sound, and I had a nervous night that night. I was expecting, we had just had a bad side charge late that afternoon, and I thought they were Japs sneaking up on us, but it was only land crabs.
Well, how intense was it?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was very intense.
What was it like to be in combat for the first time?
Awesome.
Really? Why?
Yeah, yeah. I had heard about what the Marines did on Guadalcanal, and on New Britain, the first day, I was a gunner on a 60-millimeter mortar, and all I had was a 45 attached to my hip. And we had a little banzai charge that afternoon, late that afternoon. And this guy had me picked out and come running. He could have shot me numerous of times, but he wanted to bayonet me. And all I had was a 45. And I just let him come. And when he got about 15 or 20 feet from me, I shot him in the chest, and he fell backwards.
Wow.
With that 45, got a knockdown power.
It does.
We pulled back from the creek and dug in up on the side of the hill. And that night, the land crabs kept me awake all night, rattling leaves. I thought Japs was coming.
We just have about a minute before we take our first break. When you're in your first combat and it's finally come to a close, at least its first lull anyway, what does that feel like?
Yeah, relief.
Relief. It's interesting that you found it thrilling to be in combat. Did you expect that?
No. Didn't expect it.
But I guess the adrenaline flows when somebody's coming right at you with a bayonet.
Yeah.
You had the better weapon, for sure. So, Mr. Burgin, let's take a quick break here. We are speaking with R.V. Burgin, a veteran of World War II and the U.S. Marine Corps. I'm Greg Columbus. This is Veterans Chronicles on the Radio America Network. We're back on Veterans Chronicles. I'm Greg Columbus, honored to be joined today at the American Veterans Center Conference by R.V. Burgin. He is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps and World War II. Pacific Theater, obviously, given his Marine credentials. Sir, we were just talking about your first combat experience at the Battle of New Britain. Where did you go from there?
Peleliu.
And Peleliu is one of the fiercest battles of the Pacific Theater.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about it.
They had over 500 Ks in that Coral Island. Sometimes we were in places we couldn't dig a foxhole. We'd find chunks of rocks and just pile them up around us for protection. We lost 6,000 men on that island, over 6,000. And the Army come in and relieved us, and they had over 2,000 casualties. That little 2 by 6 mile island with over 8,000 casualties, and there was a little island called Nicobus, about 800 yards off of the main island. And they had something like a 150 caliber artillery piece over there, and they were shelling the main island. We went over there and one morning, and we set up beside a bunker, and Sledge said, Burgin, there's Japs in there. I said, Sledge, you must be cracking up. Saunders said that bunker was clear. Saunders was a platoon sergeant. I don't give a damn what Saunders said. Hear them jabbered. I eased up beside the bunker, and they had a window with bars across it, about a foot in diameter. And I eased up beside the pillbox, bunker, and leaned over and looked in the port, and the chap had his face up in there looking out, and next, or right next to the bars, and I took my .45 and shot him point blank, and was just like kicking a beehive. All the jabbering and commotion going on, and they had a ventilator up in the top of that thing, and we threw a numerous amount of hand grenades, and but they weren't doing any good. The bunker was about 15 or 20 foot long, and had an entrance for both ends. And in the bunker, they had concrete wall coming out about 18 or 20 inches, and staggered, and one on this side here and one on that side, staggered. And that's the reason we'd hand grenades that were thrown in the bunker wasn't doing any good. I run down to the beach and got a Amtrak with a 75 mounted on it, and I brought him up and knocked a hole, told him to knock a hole in that thing where we could get a flamethrower. And Charles Womack was our flamethrower man, and I picked him up on the way back, and the Amtrak knocked a hole in it about 30 inches in diameter, and Charles Womack let that flamethrower go off in there, and they were either 7 killed inside or 7 killed outside, and 10. There was 17 chaps in there. We killed all of them, and didn't get a man wounded. And Captain, I guess everybody in the company knew, because the company bypassed that bunker, and I guess everybody knew about the bunker that Captain Alladine asked me when we got back the second day in the afternoon. Hammond Jap was in that bunker, and I was 17, and I told him how many was killed inside and how many outside, and I didn't get a man wounded. He said, "I'm going to put you here for Silver Star," but he got killed October the 12th, and that never happened. I did receive a Bronze Star
At
on
Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Sir, let me have you pause right there. We'll be right back with R.V. Burgin on Veterans Chronicles. Thanks for being with us this week on Veterans Chronicles. I'm Greg Corumbus, honored to be joined today at the American Veterans Center Conference by World War II veteran R.V. Burgin. He is also a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, which is the branch he served in during the war. And sir, you were just talking about your heroic actions on Peleliu and how you would have been submitted for a Silver Star had your superior officer survived the battle. How long were you on Peleliu?
30 days.
30 days.
30 days and nights. They'd come out of their caves at night and infiltrate the lines, Marine lines.
How would you describe the Japanese fighter?
They ferocious, and they fight to the death.
They didn't surrender.
No. I think I've seen 3 Japs surrender on Okinawa, and they come out of a cave in their shorts and waving a white flag. The 3 of them.
Pretty rare, though.
That's only 3 Japs I've seen surrender.
Wow. So after Peleliu, where did you go?
Okinawa.
Okinawa's next.
I was on Okinawa April the 1st to October the 26th. The battle didn't go on that long, but I was waiting to come home, transportation to come home. We were on the north end of the island. And of course, there come from the west and come down our street upside down. I believe he was low. He stuck his hand out of a pit and touched the ground. He come from the west, and he did the victory roll going east. He turned around and come back and did the same thing going west, and did the victory roll. That's after the war was over.
Let's go back to the beginning of Okinawa. What were you told to expect with that battle?
What? Say that again?
What were you told to expect? What did you expect going into the Battle of Okinawa?
Okinawa was the only place that I fought that had civilians. That was Okinawa was the last battle before we hit Japan, and Japan was our next objective. I'm sure glad that they dropped the atomic bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say that was terrible. I think it's the best decision in World War II, dropping that bomb. If we'd have hit Japan proper, there would have been thousands of us killed, and Lord, I don't know how many Japanese civilians and military men would have been killed, but it would have been terrible.
Sir, you mentioned a little earlier that you did earn a Bronze Star in the Battle of Okinawa. Can you tell us what happened that day?
It was a machine gun, and he'd open up every time we'd kick him. They would attempt to go across the valley, and we'd have to send stretcher bearers out and get the wounded, and I knew approximately where it was, but I didn't pinpoint him. I stepped out in his range of fire, and he put 3 bullet holes in my left leg, in my dungarees, between my knee and ankle, and he put 2 bullet holes in my dungarees, in my right leg, and I seen the fire coming out of the barrel of my that machine gun, and I fired one round and made an adjustment, and that's the only time I can truly say that I got a direct hit with a 60.
So that was the incident you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
That was the machine gun nest that was causing so many problems.
Yeah.
Wow. How badly were you hurt?
I spent 20 days in the hospital.
And you went back to your unit.
Yeah. Picked up right where I left off.
Why was that so important to you?
Yeah. I was a sergeant over the 60 Mortar section. It was important to me to get back to my men. I was a sergeant, and I was in charge of them. And we had a first-time lieutenant, and first battle. He was from Maine, and I had a lot of training too. He used to sit around before we went into Okinawa, before we had, and tell us what he's going to do. That's veterans, we just laughed at him. He said, I'm going to put my GI knife in my mouth and charge the Japanese. He changed his mind after he got into combat.
How much better do you think you were at your job by this time compared to back on New Britain?
I had matured a lot. I was quite a bit better at handling men and getting the job done on Okinawa than I was at the other 2 battles, New Britain to Peleliu.
So after the Battle of Okinawa, that's late April 1945, what did you do between then and the end of the war?
I was on the north end, they sent us up to the north end of the Okinawa, and I stayed there until the war was over, and then I came home.
And what did you do after you got home?
Made a career at the Dallas Post Office.
Okay.
Went as a substitute carrier and came at a superintendent.
And you kept that job the rest of your career?
Yeah.
You also wrote a book.
Yes.
Called
Islands of the Dam.
Islands of the Dam. Tell me about it.
I I don't know why it took me so long to write that book. I was 80 years old when I wrote it, and it came out in 1981. I procrastinate a lot. I had my family had encouraged me to write a book. If not a book, write it down, or your grandkids and great grandkids will know what you did. And I finally decided to write a book, and the writer, Bill Marvel, from the day he first come to the house, the book was out in 1 year. That's pretty fast.
It is.
It normally takes 18 months or 2 years. But we worked hard on the book. We wanted it to come out at the same time the Pacific did. The Pacific come out, and my book come out the next day, vice versa.
The Pacific was a miniseries on HBO, correct? Yeah. And you are depicted in that.
Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10.
In which battles?
New Britain, Peleliu, and Okinawa.
All three. What kind of response did you get to the book?
They printed 66,000, and it's on the commande's reading list.
Fantastic.
I thought it was honor to my book to be on the commandant's reading list. It's got 10 books on his reading list, and mine's number 3.
High praise. Just a couple minutes left in our conversation, sir. When you think about your time in service to our country, what comes to mind first, and what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud that I've served in the Marines. Marines are the best, and Uncle Sam has. They get the job done.
And the men that you served with, what do you think of when you think of them?
They all heroes as far as I'm concerned.
Sir, thank you very much for your time. Oh, go ahead.
I never had a Marine that quit on me. Never.
So that helped reinforce each other then?
Yes, yes. But it's not.
It's now been more than 70 years since you served. Is that hard to believe?
71 years.
That's right. Sir, we thank you for your service to our country. We thank you for your time in this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you.